The choice is clear: an incompetent swamp creature Trump or a competent swamp. I think that's charitable too. Neither candidates are really evidencing competence. Both of them seem to indicate a bit of ineptitude and a state of mental decline. Also, I think that we could call into question their alert-orientedness. But that doesn't necessarily mean that one is... I mean, they're both dangerous. I mean, at this point, I shouldn't be so... I need to be a little bit more poignant in who I am obviously supporting right now, and that is clearly Joe Biden. I endorse Joe Biden as president. And I say that because I don't like it, but I understand it. I'm not voting for Joe Biden because he is the prospect of hope and change, that he is going to spearhead a movement that is going to lead us to real change in this country, that he is going to bring us a new wave of politics that is going to completely redefine the way that we see politics or democracy in this country. I am not supporting Joe Biden because I think that he is the absolute best candidate, because he's not. He's the lesser of two evils. I'm not voting for Joe Biden because I want to maintain the status quo of the Democratic Party, that I want to uphold the values of neoliberal policies that we see, and at best that's what we can expect. That's not why I'm voting for Joe Biden. I'm voting for Joe Biden because I fear what 4 more years of Trump will do for the LGBTQ community. I can't imagine how much more we will see a divide in this country, if we'll see an increase in police brutality, if we'll see changes made in our own legislation that will effectively right already vulnerable populations out of history, or attempt to at least. If we continue to see the erasure of those with disabilities or transgender individuals, or whatever the case may be, with an Amy Coney Barrett's confirmation, the chances of seeing changes to my rights as a woman seems more and more likely as well. At the very least, if there is some way to stop 4 more years of what we have already experienced in this proto-fascist administration, then I think that I have to do the right thing. It is more responsible to take this approach than to make it seem like the stakes aren't as high as they are. It's just something that I feel like I should just say, fuck it, let's talk basketball. Why we're not going to talk about basketball? I'm going to talk about how this is a completely unfair position that we are finding ourselves in. It's just another pointed example of how, for so many people, the barriers are set. There's limit. Dude, politics is dirty. Don't worry if people call you a label. Just do what's right. Again, I'm not voting out of my own. I'm not a single issue voter. I'm not trying to toe the line for the Democrats. I am not trying to vote out of my own self-interests. I'm not trying to preserve my own self-interests. I'm doing it because I think it's the better choice to make, to try to at least protect those who will be most impacted by 4 more years of Trump. This was not an easy decision to make. I was not voting for a candidate who was going to suit my needs. I was voting for a candidate who would do the best to protect against already vulnerable and marginalized communities. Centrist leftists are dumb as shit. Why? Why are centrist leftists dumb as shit? I really do think that I do a disservice in my failure to make some of you understand the power dynamics of three branches of government with different variations of governments at the federal, state, and local level to really hammer into you just how small we are as individuals. And even if we do engage in collective action, we do direct action, we try to make a difference on the ground, it is nothing to go up against. The powers that be are so much more substantial, especially whenever you think about the very small pool of people who actually give enough of a shit to put themselves on the front line and make a change and are activists and do the work. It's still nothing that we have the capacity to fight for on the ground. And I understand that some of you lack this information. I know some of you have failed to recognize just how big the government is, or you really are working within this bubble of other leftists and think that somehow, some way, you as individuals either have enough power to make a change single-handedly, or you think that you as an individual are going to do more work by abstaining from the electoral process altogether, and that somehow you are, by protesting or completely disavowing the electoral process altogether, that this is going to lead to the outcome that you are seeing or you are envisioning. I have to tell you, you are not thinking rationally right now. You're not thinking, okay, fine. And you know what? If this makes me a liberal, I don't know what to tell you. I am not saying to just vote and call it a day, because that's not what it comes down to. That's not what it comes down to. Do I think this is where you stop in your fight for a revolution? No, absolutely not. I am conceding to a duopoly, just like everyone else. And you have the opportunity to not vote for either one of the two viable parties. You can vote third party. That is your prerogative. In fact, I don't want to try to persuade you into voting for one person or one candidate over the other. I do think that you need to vote. It's incredibly important. You owe it to your community. If you consider yourself a leftist, then you absolutely should vote down ballot. In the event that there are some really good local officials who would take office and start making real change, and will be a servant to the public in the way that they are expected to be. I believe that. But I also know that you got to get out there and join your local tenant union, and you have to volunteer, and you have to get involved on the grounds. You have to find a way to add value to your community and its shared vision and its goals. Be part of a community, do the work. Look at this from a collective perspective. Make a difference. And that's how we start to see real change. But it starts at that level where you have to vote for the people who have already done the work, who have been a step ahead of you, who are part of their communities who have done the work, who are considered a leader, right? Those are the people who have been in this process, who are a step ahead of you, who have garnered supports in their own neighborhoods and are now running for office because they have made a promise to help those, all right? It's an opportunity that I'll never have, but that's neither here nor there. Breaking my monologue. So yes, to keep this process going, you need to vote in your local elections. You need to support those who have already done the work that you are beginning right now, who have volunteered, who have joined mutual aid organizations, who are maybe a local DSA activist who's already in this process. Support them and keep it going. And maybe you will be the person who runs in a local office. And maybe you will be the person who represents your constituents. Maybe you'll run for city council. Maybe you'll run for a commissioner or whatever opening is available. So yes, I do find it very important to vote and get involved in your community and make a difference. Change happens from the ground up. Direct action is a receipt for frustration. Direct action is a receipt for frustration because there are less than 100 million active DSA members and there are less than 100. Fuck, why do I always fuck it up? I need to write this down. I need to take notes, chat. There are less than 100,000 active DSA members in this country and 100 million apolitical people who did not vote in 2016 in the general election. So of course direct action is frustrating if you are one of the very few people who are going out, boots on the ground, and trying to work in your community. You know, so if the burden wasn't placed on the very small handful of people who are trying to do good work in their neighborhood, then maybe people wouldn't feel so spread thin. Maybe people wouldn't think that direct action is a recipe for frustration. Maybe more people could share the burden of taking on this role of volunteerism in your community. That is a thankless job that you do not because you want the glory or that you get paid for it, because it's the right thing to do, because you are trying to make a difference for those who can't stand up and fight for themselves. That's why you do it. I won't vote. We actually read this. I read this, and anyway, this is kind of where I sit with things. I mean, it's your prerogative, chat. You can tell me why you don't agree with me, or whatever the case may be. I understand that we are going to be at odds here. Chad, I understand. I understand that I'm not in the sexiest of positions. I'm more of a local level activist. Thank you all again for the subs. I am more of a local level activist. I don't have as much of reach. I'm very small. But I still understand the value of doing it.